there's a difference with everybody. But with kids, it's always the mindset. If they believe they can, it's like a rocket. You just give them that little spark, right? And then you ignite that fire and they take off. But you have to create that circumstance.
Welcome to Hollywood Real, where my inspiring guests share the stories behind their success and ideas to help you thrive in every part of your life. I'm your host, Jay Menez, and today's guest is a 7-time World Forms and Weapons Champion. From the day he chose martial arts over Little League Baseball, he knew he wanted to be an on-screen action star. He's experienced the highs of being a world champion to the lows of not being able to land a Hollywood gig for years at a time. But after persevering through his drought, he landed the role of Blue Ranger in Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. This superhero went on to create XMA, Xtreme Martial Arts, and today he trains and directs the world's biggest action stars for film and television. He learned the importance of being motivated from failure and established a simple system for life success, which he shares on this week's episode. Let's meet him now. Here's Mike Chat.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been too long.
I know. It's really great to see you here.
Yeah.
Hey, so I always wanted to ask you, how did you get started in this business?
So I was competing on the tournament circuit, 18 years old, a bunch of the tournament competitors, all of these young adult stars from the North American Sport Karate Association tournament circuit, they were being plucked out of the tournament circuit for films like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then there was this show on Fox. It was the #1 show called WMAC Masters. Any fans out there? Way back in the day, #1 show in its time slot on Saturday mornings. And season 2, I got an opportunity. Pat Johnson, thank you, Mr. Johnson. He was known for the Karate Kid movies, stunt coordinator, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, and then they started this TV series called WMAC Masters, and I was fortunate enough to work on the show for season 2. I had my own character called Wizard, and Larry Lamb, a famous stunt coordinator now, who helped to mentor me back in those days. He was also on the show, but we played rival brothers. So it was a wizard and warlock. It was really amazing. I had a hand in creating my own character, and that was the start.
Wow, okay. And how old were you?
I was 19 when I got cast on the show. I'm actually remembering now, that wasn't the start. I did one show where I think I made like $43 and something cents. I was an extra in a show in Chicago. I don't even remember the name of the film, but I have the paycheck. I have the paycheck and it's framed. But I did one little stint when I was like 10 years old, and that was it.
And had you been training martial arts prior to that?
Yes, so I got involved in martial arts. I grew up watching Samurai Sunday in Chicago. My dad and my dad did Muay Thai when he was a kid, but just recreational Muay Thai from Thailand. And every Sunday morning, we would get up, go out and do some yard work, come back in. It was ramen noodles, Samurai Sunday, Kung Fu movies all afternoon. I think it was pretty much all afternoon. That's all we did. Every Sunday, we would watch Kung Fu movies, the voice dubbed ones. And I would watch these martial artists fly through the air, fight with weapons and do like 100 moves, and then land on the ground in these amazing poses. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So that was it. Like, I was hooked. Ever since I can remember, that was my childhood. And all I wanted to do was train in martial arts. But my parents thought it was too dangerous. So they kept saying, when you're 8. It was a totally random number because later I found out they just thought I would forget or I would lose interest. But it must have been when I was like 3 years old that we started this, watching these Kung Fu movies. So 8th birthday came around. I want martial arts. We went to 3 different schools, picked one. It happened to be a tournament school. So they were competing. The owners were promoters. And that's what got my start into actual formal training and tournament competition.
I know a lot of parents, especially Asian parents, they want to push their kids towards something, be a doctor or a lawyer, and then and then this other stuff acting, stunts, that could be kind of your fallback.
Yep.
Hoping you'll forget about it, right?
Well, if we fast forward to junior year in high school, so my oldest sister graduates salutatorian of her high school class, gets into the University of Chicago, right? One of the great think tanks. And my family, they kept reiterating, more Nobel Peace Prize winners and laureates graduate from this school. Okay. That set the tone. Then my second sister graduates valedictorian of her high school class. It's like 1,000 students, and she's number one. Goes to Northwestern University, winds up at Stanford Law. Here's me, black sheep of the family. I want to do entertainment. I believe I was out of 800 and something students, I was 334. That was my final ranking. Junior year, my dad comes down. It's dinner time. Before the dinner is set, he slaps he's like, boom. He slaps this U.S. News and World Report on the table, and on the cover I'm reading top 20 U.S. schools, college rankings, right? He goes, they're the top 20. Pick from there. Okay, so I don't even want to look at it. Like I don't care. At this moment in my life, all I want to do is get to LA. I just want to go to Hollywood, right? I don't care. But okay, I was raised right, and so in my mind, okay, I'm going to go to business school. I'm going to get my degree. If anything happens, my fallback is I can always open up martial arts schools, right? So that's my game plan. I don't go tell everybody I want to go to Hollywood and do acting and action stuff. I just say, I'm gonna try it out a little bit, but here's my game plan. I'm gonna go to school and get my degree, and then I can always open up martial arts schools. So that's where all of that came from. But yes, my family had one mindset. I had a different one. They totally changed, but it took some years.
Wow. So if you weren't doing martial arts today, what do you think you'd be doing?
If I wasn't doing martial arts, because for me, martial arts means teaching, training, helping, and then the entertainment part of it, performing. I would be helping people in some way, whether it was charitable, whether it was independent consulting or one-on-one coaching. I would be helping people. I know that I am here on this earth to then give and to help and to serve, and I have a unique ability to then help bring things out of people, create breakthroughs, so this way they can really have positive impact in their lives. So it's something I always felt. I started teaching and assisting classes for my instructor at like 10 years old, which turned into then by 15, I was basically teaching the majority of the classes, except for like the high-level black belt classes. And that was as a green, purple, blue, and brown belt. So not even as a black belt, I was teaching most of the classes. So I love that part of it. Teaching, helping, watching people grow and overcome challenges. That was just always in my nature.
Yeah, it's not too often that somebody at such a young age figures out that purpose in their life and has that kind of clarity. Mm-hmm. How do you think you developed that? Why did that come along?
It's interesting because both my parents' fathers were rubber plantation owners in Thailand, moved from China, bought land in Thailand, and basically created these villages. So they were entrepreneurs, they were hard workers, but it was business. So that's their track record, that track record. Then my parents come here to the United States for school. They wind up moving over here. My mom becomes a medical technologist, working in a hospital. That was her long career. My dad becomes a computer tech for Amoco, then turned to Standard Oil, then Amoco Oil. And that's where, he built his career. So this whole nature of life transformation, helping others, creating positive impact, leadership, it wasn't something that came from my parents. The independence, the entrepreneur mindset did, but not directly from them. It was just through stories that I had heard of their parents. So I believe that we're all here for a reason. And like you said, sometimes it takes a very long time. Some people never figure out what it is they're supposed to do. They're always in search of, the meaning of life for them. I'm just very fortunate and blessed. I knew right away. The moment I saw martial arts on the TV screen, I was like, I want to do that, right? And then that very quickly turned to it was just a natural process. I learned, and then I taught, and I gave back. And it was always part of that full circle. So my instructor instilled that in me. I didn't resist it. I wasn't like, I don't want to do that part of it. It was just, yeah, okay. Oh, you need some help? Let me show you. So that's all I can remember. It was just very natural for me. But definitely from my instructor, then to all of the mentors that I've had afterwards. It's just been a natural progression.
Do you ever counsel students or people you come in contact with on finding their passion?
Yes. So then that is, now more people come to me, and I'm sure you experience the same. More people come to me not for martial arts training, the technical training, tournament competition, fight choreography. They come to me because whether it's they don't have a mentor or a life coach, that's working with them. They come because they know they're missing something. You can be doing 99% of the things right, but if the 1% that you're missing is what's going to make the difference, then we need to figure out what that 1% is. So that's where I believe my gift is. In talking with people and working with them, I can figure out what it is that they're missing and what they're not considering, whether it's because they've got all these blocks that have been built up through childhood, or they've had recent trauma in their life. And I can feel what it is that they want, whether they can express it or not, and then help them to discover the things that, there's a reason why we want this so much, but we keep looking like out the window over there or over our shoulder, and it's like, we want this so bad, but something keeps like pulling us this way. And that's that gut instinct that we all have that we know we should not ignore, but life, career, relationships, all those things take over. And then this is what we're supposed to do. This is what we need to do financially, personally, whatever it is. Then the reason that we keep looking the other way is because something is pulling us. So I use this, the push-pull theory. When you're pushed to do something and you have lots of people to support you, right? That's great. But that requires just sheer willpower to push yourself forward and to be pushed. But at some point, you got to stand on your own 2 feet. And it doesn't matter what kind of support you have. It is very helpful. But at the end, if whatever it is that you're going for and that you want, you're not being pulled by that feeling, it's like the chances are very, very small that you'll ever get it, because you just won't do what is necessary. Like you're here today. You went through many things, Wall Street, and you built and then you lost in your life, and people go through that, but you're here, you've got your show, you're still doing this, and that's what we do when we know that is the direction we're supposed to go. But we won't do all those things that we're supposed to. Conor McGregor said it the best, and I love it because he walked the walk, and he really is a great example for martial artists and for anyone. He's like, it's not determination, it's not perseverance, it's obsession. I'm obsessed. And people who are obsessed, it's because they're being pulled. They're not being pushed. Nobody's pushing them. Nobody's reminding them what to do. Nobody's saying, hey, It's like, with my kids. It's like, I don't want to push them to do anything. I want to help them find what it is that they want, and then set up the circumstance so this way other forces can pull them in that direction. They can go on their own journey and process and explore and have the adventure, right? But when someone's like pushing you, you're like, okay, to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And I want to come back to this mindset stuff because I think it's so important. As you know, it's really the foundation for all success. It's getting your head straight in these things. But switching gears a little bit, I was watching a bunch of old videos of you, I think in your tournament days, competing. And it's just so impressive the way you handle those weapons, how tight your moves are. And it's just, I've never seen anything like it. When you became 7-time world champion, and you were competing, was this the pre-Hollywood stuff or during? How did that come about?
So it was at the same time. I won my first world championship title in 1995, the Waco World Championships. I was competing for Team Paul Mitchell, the hair care company. They really, Don Rodriguez, the coach, Steve Babcock, Christine Bannon Rodriguez, these martial artists really supported me. The whole team in the company got behind me. And I went to Germany with the whole team. I sprained my ankle 3 days before. Just doing a light run, just keeping my body loose. I'm getting on a plane, going to Germany, my first world championship. I sprained my ankle. I arrive on crutches to meet the team in New York to fly over to Germany. And they're like, what? And I wrapped that sucker, and I had my Motrin, and I got through it. I just blocked it out. But yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Even through all of that, you were able to just block it out and still perform flawlessly and win a world championship.
Yeah, for that experience in starting, then the tournament side and the Hollywood side were very much combined. My goal was not to win a world championship initially, and it became a goal, but that was just a goal marker in the longer, chase for the movies and the TV shows. So then I knew that, okay, I had a mentor, Jean Frenette. He was a former world forms, musical forms champion. So I learned a lot from him. He had a setup in Europe, knew everybody, all the magazine promoters, all the big showrunners. And so if I won the world championship title, I would be put on these magazines because of his connection. And then they would bring me back for these big Budo Gala shows in Germany. I performed at the Olympic halls in Dortmund and Munich and at Bercy and Paris. And 25,000 spectator shows. The arenas are so big that when you perform and the lights are so strong and you kind of try and look up because the lights are just so strong, it's just black when you look up because it's so high. And it was really amazing. So I knew that was what I needed to do, win the world title, get on the magazines, do the shows, and then the opportunities would be much greater for me to book roles in Hollywood. So, stars aligned, and, I won my title, did the magazine. The guy was so great, Norbert Schiffer. He owns, 7 publications at the time, put me on all of them. It was really amazing. And that really started things. And then it was so easy. I come back. Now, Pat Johnson, the producers of the TV show, WMAC Masters, they see all of these covers and they're like, yeah, we want this guy. And it was really just because of, my one mentor, Jean Frenette, of course, my instructor, Sensei John Sharkey out of Chicago. He was the one that was training me, but he connected me with Jean Frenette. And then Jean Frenette connected me with Norbert Schiffer after I won the world title. And it all just kind of fell into place.
Yeah, so that was a very strategic move on your part.
In hindsight, but in the moment, yes, I wanted to do it, but I didn't really know. I was just like, okay, if I do this, it could lead to this. It could lead to this. It wasn't like now looking back, yeah, if I was to coach my son to do it, I would say, oh yeah, here's what we need to do. And I would map out the plan, and there was no strategy written down. It was just, I'm just a kid excited, and I want to win a world title. I want to do movies. I want to live that life and fly through the air and do 100 moves and land on the ground and look really cool in a martial art pose. That was the goal. That was the dream.
That's great. And you ended up with 7 of those. 7,
yes. Between the Waco World Championships, ISKA, and North American Sport Karate Association, I competed for a couple more years, won more titles, and then I decided that, that was it. I had other opportunities to do entertainment work, so then I just started transitioning out.
You're clearly very talented in that area, and you've got all these accolades, these 7 world titles and XMA and movies. Your resume is just so deep. But I want to ask you, probably something people don't often explore, where did you fail in your life? Where did you meet the most adversity?
Why don't we get a little more specific, and then I can tell you all the different ways I failed, because there's too many. There's way too many, and everybody says it, but really it is true. without failure, there's no success, and you have to fail a million times to learn from that and understand what that is. That's also how you overcome being under pressure, learning how to perform, stepping it up, taking those risks. I talk a lot in quotes, so then we have these quotes that we use because they're easily digestible, bite-sized chunks that people can remember. So then, like I'll say, be willing to take risk when you don't have the confidence. That's called courage. And whether we're here in Hollywood, like confidence doesn't really help you when you learn your lines, you know you can nail it, and you did that with your acting coach yesterday, and now you go into the room and there's 10 people instead of 2, and you didn't realize the director and network execs were going to be there, then the whole circumstance changes, and now you're doing it for the first time in front of totally different people. It doesn't matter that you nailed it 10 times yesterday. You need to do it for the first time today under these circumstances. Either you can or you cannot step it up, right? So that doesn't take confidence because you don't have the confidence to know whether or not you can do that with these people. Maybe you did it before, but this is a new situation, right? So then the courage, being willing to take that risk, to step it up and just be open and deliver, right? Whether that's in Hollywood or whether that's in your regular life, right? Then, these concepts are very important. So I like to focus on these. So where do you want to start? Personal, professional, martial arts, entertainment? We can talk about anything you want.
Well, let's start there. Where do you think you struggled most in your career? Can you take us back to a moment?
Oh, absolutely. So I finish Power Rangers. I'm coming off a #1 hit TV show, different than any other kids show at the time, and even now, because immediately when you're on Power Rangers, they start airing, it's worldwide. Worldwide. It's not, it's going to air here, let's see how it goes, and then it might go into syndication later and be shown in other countries. No, it's worldwide. It's everywhere. So that is a totally different level of fame and exposure than anything else. But understanding that, okay, it is a kid's show, right? So I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I'm thinking, okay, like I'm gonna be able to secure a really great agent. I'm gonna be going out for amazing roles, and like this is it. This is the one. And I worked hard. I did a great job, filming on the show, had great relationships. I am ready to take on Hollywood. And I would go into audition after audition after audition where either I was just too old to play teen or too young to play young adult. So I was 24, turning 25 at the time. And you would look at all of the other people on the audition room playing mid-20s. And I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, these guys have to be like 35 years old. And they were 30 to 35 playing like mid-20s to late 20s. And they all look older than me. So then I noticed that the feedback that came back was that I was either too young or too old, too old to play younger, too young to play older. And I struggled. I booked a ton of commercials, which was great, like 12 nationals in 1 year. That was fantastic. But then failed miserably with booking another TV series or even just like a really good supporting role in a film. So that wasn't the first year or the second year or the third year. That continued for like 3.5, 4 years. When then I decided in the interim, during those years, I was like, well, I mean, I've got a family, I got to pay the bills. So I always continued my martial arts business and training, but then I had opportunities to work with Xtreme Martial Arts, the Martial Arts Industry Association, developing programming and content. That's where we created XMA, the Xtreme Martial Arts Performance Training Program for martial arts schools. And that side of my career started to take off. And I was still auditioning, but it was so frustrating because literally, if you think about it, it wasn't like, I don't even remember if I got a callback. Like, that's pretty bad. Like,
Wow.
you come off of a hit show and you can't even get a callback. Now, I know in hindsight, my acting skills could have been much better. I did not dedicate my time like I should have in diving into a full-time acting school. I did take a class with an amazing coach, Daryl Hickman, but I was not dedicated like I should have been. I was coming off a show thinking that it was all going to come to me. And I was focused on the wrong things. What I should have done was I should have gone right back into training like I did with my martial arts and hit the ground running hardcore as if, okay, maybe I passed the basic level, white, orange, yellow belt, but now I need to move into the intermediate ranks and really dive into training and working and taking the smaller roles. But I wasn't even interested. I just wanted the big stuff. And so that was my first big failure, because that turned into an amazing 15-year martial art career and zero for TV and film.
Wow.
Zero.
Wow.
I did some stunt stuff, but zero acting roles. Nothing. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
But that's a good lesson you took out of it. As we know, the great athletes, they continue to work on the basics.
Yeah.
Way after that they've achieved the top of their career.
Yes.
Because they know that's where it is. And for you, that was the martial arts and the acting side of it, if you wanted acting roles.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. And every time you go and you audition and you don't get a call back or you don't get a booking and you fail, essentially, you learn from it, right? So I was always one to learn from my experiences, and I had many of those failures compiled over and over and over throughout the years, and then just layered. So all of the emotion goes with it, but then redirecting it is really the key and learning from it.
Did you ever think about quitting?
No. And here's why. Because I knew since I was very young, as long as I can remember, that's what I wanted to do. So I knew I would do it. And I was also getting feedback. I had great guidance. I had these two managers, Rick and Andy Nathanson. Rick was a big film producer, line producer. He did Dragon the Bruce Lee Story, tons of Van Damme films, worked in China. He's an ambassador for the Chinese film department. And his wife was managing me, an incredible photographer during like the rock and roll days of the 60s, 70s, turned manager. And I had really good mentors and people that were guiding me. So it was more like a pause. I knew that the timing wasn't right. So I could fight it, or I could just really go full force into the martial arts stuff, let everything take a back seat. When there were opportunities, I did go after them. I just failed really bad. I just failed. And before, I wouldn't have spoken about failing in these terms. I would have tried to cover it up, right? World champion, Power Ranger, I've got all these credits. Oh, I'm a leader in the martial arts industry. What I would have said was, oh yes, you can't book every role, right? So yes, I auditioned, but it went another way. But now I in the last 5 or 6 years, when I really turned much more towards not just being a leader in the martial arts industry, but our XMA program had done its job. We turned the XMA program with my current partner, Chief Master Von Schmeling from Victory Martial Arts. He had a life skills program, the Victory School of Life. I had the XMA program, all the cool moves, the choreography, the attitude, making things cool for teens again, not like martial art kids. Now they're 13, embarrassed walking outside the school or going to McDonald's or to a restaurant to eat after karate class in a white uniform, right? They hated that. So we combined the concept to create a leadership program. And now it's being used by the American Taekwondo Association, 1,500 schools, around the world. And it was a great opportunity for me to transition. And so now in this transition, I realized so much more that if we talk about it, the things that are unspoken that people want to shy away from, or we even say, hide your weakness, show your strength. Like, don't show your weakness, but it actually isn't one. It's one to learn from. And so now we just use it. And many people, you go on YouTube and, all the experts, all the top motivators, they're going to talk about failing a million times and how you learn from Michael Jordan, right? There's no way that we wouldn't even know the name Michael Jordan if it weren't for him talking about his failures and not making the team and coming back and working hard. So yeah, that's a highlight for me. And I want everybody to understand that we should talk about it to our kids in the framework of it's such a positive thing. Oh, you failed. What did you learn? What did you get out of that, right? Not like the F word, right? Like, it's not talk about. It should become a positive word and have a positive connotation to it because of how we present it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, it's how you present it. And I'm all about that. Like you said, you're all about the mindset and creating that. And if we see it as negative, it's going to be negative, right? If you think you can or can't, you're right? So it's all of that.
Amen to that.
Yes.
I love that perspective shift there, because you really do have to look at it as a stepping stone, right? It's part of the process. There is no success without failure.
Yeah.
Right? So if you look at that as that way and do that, then you'll reach it eventually. It's just a matter of time, right? It's the perseverance and the grit and having that courage to step up so that you can earn the confidence to go even further. I love that.
He sounds like me. I sound like good words.
Exactly.
Good words. Yes.
So you were in the middle of this thriving, this growing career in Hollywood as an actor, and then you created XMA. Why did you create XMA?
So it was interesting. I was connected with Frank Silverman, the director of the Martial Arts Industry Association. They're the largest trade organization in our industry. Worldwide, they have their big super show. It's coming up a couple weeks in July. And they took the initiative to help the martial arts industry through programming products on the Century side and consulting. And Mike Dillard, the owner of Century, and Maya put his muscle and his investment behind Frank Silverman to create this industry to help the schools and the school owners. So Frank Silverman says, hey, would you like to work with us? And he wanted me to go do seminars. And I said, no, I don't want to do seminars. I said, what I would like to do is just create a program so other people can learn and then I don't have to go because my time was limited. So that's how it started. And we developed a program together. It was an incredible collaboration between the top, which they're still the number one martial art product manufacturer and distributor in the world, Martial Arts Industry Association, the greatest minds in our industry all together, David Wall on the Century side, along with Eldon Woods on the product side there, and we created this program that revolutionized the industry. So basically what happened was, before there were all of these traditional martial arts styles and variations, and now there's a program to actually learn how to do what you see in tournaments and TV and film. And that was my question all along. I always wanted to go to the Olympic Training Center, like all of the Taekwondo athlete friends that I had growing up. They would go to Colorado Springs, and they were training for 3-4 months leading up until World Championships or Nationals or the Pan Am Games. And I was like, why don't we have that for what we do, right? They had it for Olympic style fighting because it was in the Olympics, but we didn't have that. There was no program, there was nothing. We had to go to seminars. My instructor drove me from Chicago to Washington, D.C. to train with a world forms champion, Charlie Lee, in a 3-day camp that he had, just for 3 days, for a camp to then learn how to do all this stuff. So for me, it was all about providing something that I knew there was a demand for, but you couldn't currently get it. And this was pre-Facebook, pre-YouTube. And so this was like old school manuals and DVD kind of program. You sell it out of a box kit and then you order your products from Century. It was revolutionary, it was exciting, and that was the start. But the whole premise was to provide something that you couldn't get access to.
Wow. So XMA is really combining traditional martial arts with gymnastics, acrobatics, so that you have that visual, so it looks good on film and TV.
Yes.
So that's the idea, right?
Yes, it's a fusion of all of those things. All martial art styles and disciplines. We take techniques, movements, combinations from stances. Sometimes we'll mix a Chinese wushu stance with a karate punch. Sometimes we'll mix a higher level karate stance with a Chinese wushu movement, more circular movements, add some spins, different levels, go down to one knee, jump up in the air, spin, hit the ground. And then dance elements, right? So then we'll put it all together along with the performance element, the acting element, to create not a form, but a performance. And because we say you don't go into the ring to compete in forms competition and do forms, you have to perform. And even though it is a martial art competition, it's for sport. And so what we found was basically people would always think you need to be the strongest, you need to have the fastest techniques, you need to be the most precise. And actually, the best martial artist typically doesn't win competitions. They don't win grand championships. The best performers do. So at the end of the day, we'll look at two people technically superior, but someone who's maybe less technically, but a much better performer. The more exciting person's always going to win. 9 out of 10 times, the more exciting performer. So we knew that. And then I just created it wasn't like I didn't create this style of movement. I put it together into a program. I branded it, right? And so branded it, XMA, Xtreme Martial Arts, and then created the program so people could learn. We changed the look and the feel. So now we've got black uniforms, cut off sleeves, make them look sleek and cool again. It was actually like what Karate Kid, the Cobra Kai version, back in the day, it was like, oh, Karate Kid in the white, Miyagi-Do, or, like the tough guy look, the sensei crease with the cut off arms, black uniforms, the headbands. So we went that direction because we wanted it to be cool for the kids and not lose them as they hit their tween years. So it was part by design, a necessity in the martial arts industry to combat losing and increasing retention at those ages, but then also there was a demand for doing it. And the excitement to energize the students so this way they would stay longer and receive the benefits through the teen years was really the goal.
So tell me about some of the students that have come out of XMA in the past and where they are today.
So there's the top two right now. 20-year plan, their plan was to go from stunt double to then first unit directing. And so Chad Stahelski, David Leach. Chad is now the director of John Wick 1, 2, and 3, trained him through the Matrix years. David Leach was doubling Brad Pitt and Matt Damon. He's the director of Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, now Hobbs and Shaw coming out. And I wasn't their only trainer. They came out of the Insano Academy, world famous for martial artists transitioning into films. But we met in a gym, and I was training for tournaments, and they saw me doing 540, 720s, aerials, acrobatics with my martial arts. They were traditional based, so much more practical application based martial arts. And they're like, hey, can you teach us that? I'm like, yeah, sure. And so we just exchanged. Like weeks later, they go, okay, so here's what we do. We're stuntmen, we do this, so we like you. If you would like to do any of this, then we can work together. I was like, yes, let's do it. And so, now I realize they were just kind of testing me and they didn't know who I was, but I was always very helpful. So I think they liked that. And then, we trained together for the next 3-4 years. Then what happened was all of these kids that I trained from 8 to 12 years old, they grew up. My top students, Matt Mullins, Jackson Spadell, Chris Brewster, Craig Henningsen. Matt is now a fight coordinator, stunt coordinator. He created a group called Sideswipe, and they were performing all over the country. More NBA halftime shows, working with the Navy and the military, doing shows all over the world than any other martial art group. So then these guys individually wound up branching off, and Matt just finished. He's doing a show up in Canada right now, a feature film. He did Marvel's Runaways. He was fight coordinating on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., did Marvel's Defenders, went on to Luke Cage. Chris Brewster, he was the Daredevil stunt double for all 3 seasons and the fight coordinator. Actually passed on stunt coordinating to focus on performing because he still wanted to perform, but he was one of the original Captain America, Thor doubles, went to Daredevil. Now he's fight coordinating, stunt coordinating, and first unit directing. There's many guys in our network that I didn't actually train, but they did XMA and competed. Jeremy Marinas, Daniel Graham, Anish Sherfa. They came out of West Coast Taekwondo up in San Jose, California. These guys came down here, started training with us, connected them with 8711. They're doubling, Black Panther, Killmonger, they're, Tron Legacy from back in the day, but they're doing all the Marvel stuff now. Caitlin Deschelle, Wonder Woman, stunt double, one of 6 doubles, I believe. Natalie Padilla, Joanna Bennett, they were doubling Wonder Woman, and then Joanna went on to do Captain Marvel, Nicole Kidman and Aquaman. And basically what's happened now is they're all at different places of the world, right? Some of them work more everywhere because they're on shows that go all over the world. Some of them are New York based, Atlanta based, LA based. And of course, then they need to train up other people. So now they're training the actors, they're training other people. And those moments where we train them for competition, help them develop the precision, accuracy, the timing, the mindset to be able to work under the conditions that are necessary for, Hollywood film and TV sets and train other people.
I love that you give all that credit to all these students that you've had, your mentors, the people who inspire you, and the people that come out of there. But what were the highlights of your film career?
So it's interesting because I left for 15 years. So I would say after doing WMEC Masters, of course, Power Rangers, met, all of the producers and the actors on the show became friends. We were like one big family. We were spending every day, all night, 5-6 days a week together, working crazy hours and just enjoying it. I was just very grateful. So, it was an amazing experience for me. Then, doing stunts, I would have to say, working with Chad Stahelski and David Leitch on little projects, that was incredible. David was scouting for Hobbs and Shaw, and I had just finished commentary on the US Open ISK World Championships on ESPN. So I'm at the ESPYs in LA. I get a text. I'm with the ESPN producer because he was there too, and I get a text from David Leitch. We're watching my commentary, his commentary on the screen. I get a text from David Leitch of our image on a TV screen. And he goes, "Guess who's on the screen?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm in Hawaii scouting for this film for The Rock. And you're on the TV." So it's so crazy. In real time, then he was watching when we were watching. And I said, "Okay, that cannot be," I said, so I was able to get him on as a guest star for Power Rangers. And he played this character, and we had this great fight. And I said, "Okay, that cannot be the last time we're on the screen together," because now he's a big, A-lister director. And he goes, "Brian, yes, that was my character's name. I still remember." I didn't even remember the character name. So I have moments like that. Working with Jeff Amata on The Time Machine, I played an Eloy character, and it was like a stunt character, but having a bald cap on, right? And being with Jeff Amata, who's like at the time was one of the top stunt coordinators and still does big films. But then John Valera, one of my top competitors in the tournament circuit, was then doing stunts, so he was on it. Jonathan Eusebio, who's turned into a big stunt coordinator, fight coordinator, was on it. So many. Hiro Koda, another rival competitor, he's now a big stunt coordinator. He's the guy who does all the Cobra Kai TV shows. Just so many people that I was able to work with back in the day that are now doing big, huge projects. That was really special. Got to work with some of the Power Ranger guys on a few films like Big Fat Liar. And then Austin Powers, Gold member, had a really great fight with Beyonce before. I mean, she was already big, but this was right when her career was really taking off. So I didn't know her. I didn't really know. I knew of Destiny's Child, but I didn't really know of her. And so I'm sitting behind the set, and we're supposed to come through a door. So if you look at what's crazy is, Hollywood actors will negotiate to get into the trailer because everybody sees the trailer. Not everybody goes to see the movie. So to be in a 30-second or 60-second trailer is substantial promotion. Then, to the tune of, negotiating and giving up salary and percentage points. They'll do that just to get in the trailer. So I wind up in the trailer where Beyonce taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around. I'm playing like a security guard. And that was the only part that made it into the film. And she goes, "Shazam!" and knocks me out, right? But I had this moment with her where for 15 minutes, we're just waiting for the shot, and we're talking, and she's telling me about her career, and now she's transitioning into movies, and she doesn't know what's going to happen with her singing, but she's just enjoying it right now. And to think back, it's what a moment, because now My wife, she's from Albania, Narida, and she in 5.5 years has been going through this process of going from concert pianist and a dental technician to a Hollywood actress. And she's been booking and working her way up, and now she's on a really amazing show. Her first big credit after doing some smaller films. She has a recurring role on Star Trek Picard, and Beyonce is one of her role models. Like, she watches and studies her documentaries and her mindset and how she was as a kid, and all throughout Destiny's Child, and now how she just put on and directed her own documentary of her last performance at Coachella, and we study her. And I'm just thinking, wow, I had this moment with this amazing superstar. Like, how amazing was that to share some time with someone who would then go on to be 20 times that of what she was then. And Austin Powers at that time was the biggest franchise of the moment, right? And for her to then elevate 10, 20 times higher, it's crazy to me. So I have some really incredible moments. Like I said, but I failed miserably. So I failed. I was never the lead. I was never a supporting lead. I was hired through stunts. I was hired through stunts to play a great little part, and it wound up in the trailer. And I had, better than that, I just had this moment where I got to share some time with Beyonce Knowles backstage.
Yeah, right at that transition point in her career.
Yeah.
And now your wife is kind of getting there, and you can see that take off. And she works really hard, probably, with your guidance too. That work ethic is really important.
Yeah, 7 hours a day playing piano for 13 years. Yeah. So that was one of the things that I noticed about her right away. I said, where does that look come from? Because there was a photo that I had seen. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, that look. I said, that is the look of someone who is, and I wasn't trying just to flatter her, like I was trying to get to know her, is when we first met in Rome. And I said, that is the look of someone who is highly disciplined, highly trained. That is not a model look. That is not an actor look. That is the look of, if you were a fighter, I would say that is the look of a killer, of a top-notch elite level fighter. That is the look of someone who has been through a substantial amount of training, effort, perseverance, right? And then she's, I don't know. Then I found out, how long did you play piano for? And then that's where it came out. 7 hours a day for 13 years, concert level. It's like she didn't just come out and say, oh, I'm a concert level pianist. Like, I kind of had to dig for it. But I was like, oh, that's where that look comes. That's where that focus comes from. That's where that intensity comes from, because she has it because she lived it.
Yeah, and that's your skill of recognizing that kind of talent. Now, today, you're the go-to guy for action performers in Hollywood. That's why the studios call you. I think that must come from your process, which we were talking about a little bit earlier. Tell me about that, because it's very unique and something that you don't often hear.
Right. Well, first I need to say there's many go-to people. And now that the stunt coordinators and fight coordinators really handle all of the action and training the actors, which it was different before, 15 years ago. Now, the stunt teams handle training all the actors, and they're more than equipped to train them on all the physical, stunts, prepare them for what they need to do. What my specialty is, it's never what you do, it's how you do it, it's how you present it, right? So I have a unique ability, I believe, to then recognize the strengths that people have that get hidden, pushed down, or get knocked to the side because of intimidation, insecurity, nerve, stress, anxiety, all of the things that get layered. I'm able to see and feel that, the moment of, greatness or the moment of potential that will shine through, but normally just for a moment. And then it gets masked again because of the pressure and the stress of what's going on, whether you're on a set or you're in a rehearsal with the director or just in a meeting with the producers. So then where many people understand much better than me the psychology and the neurology of what happens in the body and the brain and how everything links, I can see it and I can feel it. And then I have ability to bring that out of people. And then I just use people like you that have organized very well. The 8 steps, the 8 things that the most successful and highly effective people use, right? The people that have the best programs and formats to develop and further develop mindset and application approach, then I'll say, oh, you should read this book, that book. Oh, you should listen to these videos. But when I'm working with people, my ability is to then bring it out of them and get them to feel so comfortable and then open up where many times they're closed, especially with Hollywood actors or stunt performers. There's a lot of ego involved and there's a lot of sensitivity. And so, first establishing rapport, making them feel comfortable, and then when they start to open up, being able to reach in and grab it and then pull it out of them. So this way there's a moment where then they do something that they've never done before. And, I'll say, when's the last time you did that? And they'll go, never. When's the last time you were that strong? When's the last time you yelled that loud? When's the last time you felt that, right? And when the answer is never, I know that we just had a breakthrough. And I'm pretty good at recognizing when that happens, but I always like to double check. And most of the time we're able to catch it on camera, and then they see it, they feel it, they hear it versus, if I tell somebody that they did this and they feel it, then they think it, right? But when they see it themselves, right, then it's much more powerful than all the senses are involved except for touch, because then they can say, I did that, right? Then they hear themselves say it. It's just so powerful.
Yeah, so it's that experience of getting that once they've done it.
Yep. So in addition to that, one of the things that we focus on, this came from my mentor, Chief Master Von Schmeling, is if you're not getting the result that you want, change the approach. Obviously, right? But the definition of insanity, people just keep doing the same thing. But you have to have a system. So in the entertainment business, it's a business, not a playground. So then in life, our business in life is to then create the most enjoyment and do the things that we want to do. But if we don't have a way to do that works very well, then how do we duplicate our efforts? How do we keep getting the same result, meaning that we're setting goals, we're accomplishing, and we're moving forward and we're evolving all the time? Then we got to change the approach. So we have a system. So we say, number 1, create your situation or your circumstance. You create it. How do you want it to be? I was very specific in coming in here after asking you a bunch of questions and getting feedback. I knew how I wanted this to go. Then what I don't know is, I don't know exactly what you're going to ask me when I'm talking. I don't know what you want to focus on, but whatever it is, I know that my goal is to help support you in your efforts. And then through my story, maybe give some value to the people that are watching, right? So create your situation or environment, choose your people, like you chose me. You created this situation, you chose me to be here. Cultivate, support that community or those people, and then you'll attract more like-minded people. If you do those 4 things, you cannot go wrong. You create it, you design how you want it to be with your acting class, with your friends, with your family. Something goes wrong over here. How do you want it to be? Let's create that in our minds first, and then we tell people. We just say, hey, I would like it to be like this. Is that okay? Because I don't like fighting, or I don't like this. I feel like there's a little tension or something. I would love it to be like this. What do you think? No? Okay, then I'm going to go find someone else or find a new community, but then I'm not going to waste time trying to battle, right? Especially in this town. So then I think that's very, very, very helpful. But in general, with leadership, we talk about leadership being the power of influence, right? Influence over others. Then everything is uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable. It's like when you start out and you're a baby and you cannot walk, you scream and cry. Everything's uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable. It's only difficult when you don't know how to do it, right? Leaders take action while others are still thinking about it. Just don't think about it forever, right? You got to take action, because if you're not first, you're following. So these are some simple guidelines, right? And then we go into much more detail based on what it is. But then where does all this come from? Because if we say you got to create your situation or your circumstance, then you have to have some values that you live by, right? And I know you do. People always ask me, well, it's very important for me because I'm a parent, I'm a father. And my job is not to be my child's friend, it's to be their father. If I have to choose, it's always going to be your father, not your friend, right? And they know this, right? And now they're like, you need to be our father. And, in the moments where they don't want to hear something, I have to tell them that I cannot be your friend. I have to be your father. I know you don't like this, but I have to do this because I need to be your father, not your friend in this moment. So then the three things that I live by when I teach my kids, when I teach my students, and what I live by myself. Number one, do the right thing. Number two, be respectful. Number three, work hard, eventually work smarter, but kids first need to learn how to work hard and then work much smarter, right? But if we just look at those three simple things, right? Do the right thing. That has to do with trust, honesty, respect, all that stuff, right? Just do the right thing in life, right? Not the wrong thing. And as you learn, you grow and all that. Then just be respectful to everybody, especially yourself, right? Because most people, they can do it with others, but then they don't do it for themselves, right? And then just work hard, right? And so now if we do those three things, and then now we want to change the result that we want, right? Then we have to create the circumstance. And in that circumstance that we create, just make sure that I'm doing it the right way, right? I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. I'm not being dishonest. I'm being respectful, right? And I create the environment that I want. I choose the people, do the right thing by those people, be respectful, work hard, support and cultivate that community, attract more like-minded people, and then you just continue the cycle, right? It's a simple system. Simple to say, not easy to do. And that's typically how life is, right? Everything you ever needed to really learn, you learned in kindergarten, right? It's just not easy to do. And so those are the things that I think are the most important that can be helpful to people. And then now the details of how, this is where they need to read your book, right? They need to go to other experts and really learn the details of the psychology behind what it is that allows us to then achieve and or what holds us back and keeps us in the same place, and prevents us from moving forward.
Very powerful. Yeah. So do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Respect others, including yourself, and work hard. That's gold right there.
That's it.
See, you are a life coach.
Oh, I've really good mentors in my life. So, many people can train. My students can train, the highest level. Like you don't need me for that. And so people seek me out just because much more about the mindset and time frame. So then when you need to, when a studio needs to prepare an actor and there's 2 weeks, there's no time. Like we need, same thing with our trainer, right? There's no time. We have a way to do it, whether we have 2 weeks or 2 months. Obviously it's better if we have 2 months, but if we have 2 weeks, or sometimes it's 2 days. Or sometimes it's, okay, we didn't get what we want. We're in the reshoot process. We've got like 3 days, right? And so then you get a call and then, you'll come in and work with, the actor, or you'll work with the team in accomplishing the vision that, the director or the producer wants. And that would be my specialty, doing it under pressure and really helping those that need to be able to step it up, feel confident enough to do it, but be willing to exercise courage when most of the time you just don't know. You don't know how it's going to turn out. Because if we did, then every film would be a masterpiece. But we don't know how the scenes are going to turn out. We hope that people are going to like it. We hope that it's going to look the way that, strong, brutal, hardcore action, or superhero, amazing, fantastic action, right? We hope it's shareable. We hope it's, it's entertaining. But you just don't know. So that requires a lot of courage to just put it out there and just know that you did a great job, and now it's up to the universe to decide, what place it's going to have in history, right?
Do your best.
Yes.
In a short period of time, there's only so much you can do with really the physicality and stuff. So it really gets into the mindset, I think, is what you're saying.
Yes.
When kids enter into something like this, much like when you were young, they'll dive into it and it's their whole world. And that coach, it becomes a very central figure in their lives.
Yes.
What sort of mindset do you try to, and ideas and values do you try to instill in your young students?
Mindset for kids is always much easier typically than adults. So if you were to say one or the other, people would say that my specialty is first kids and then adults. But then what happens is with kids, they have less barriers, less social barriers, less life experience to block them. But the mindset's always this: anything's possible. You want this? Let's go get it, right? How bad do you want it? And that's going to dictate how hard you push, and then what is the time frame? How quickly do we need to, accomplish this? So with kids, it's very simple. They have blocks like everybody else, and then we need to just create the environment around them, make sure that parents, coaches, everybody else is feeding them the right words and the right vision, and then it's up to them to overcome and then persevere, right? So then we start with the mindset, but what's amazing about kids is that they really have this ability to just believe what you say if you create the right rapport and trust with them. Because without trust, you cannot. There's always going to be doubt and insecurity and hesitation, right? So recently, I've been working with this amazing little girl who had many things in her childhood. A condition where she could break her bones very easily, could not run until 8.5 years old. She could not run as a child. No running. Because if she fell, she could break her leg, her wrist, everything. Used an inhaler almost every day, could not work out without an inhaler. Once she did start to work out, she had all these complications, and mom brought her to me to learn how to yell. And then what happened was basically what we found was that she felt so good and so strong and so positive that she didn't need her inhaler anymore. She got sick one time, and instead of being in the hospital, then she was able to just get over the sickness for the first time without actually having to go to the hospital. But because of the training, but then also the mindset. So just telling her how strong she is, because she was. And I was even surprised. She would throw a punch and literally wobble to the ground because her feet and her legs did not have the awareness to just have balance in a martial arts stance. She never did it before. To the point where then, she does boxing combos, and now she's hitting bags and mitts, and it's super strong. She got her black belt in 6 months, did more training than is required for third degree black belt. Over 800 and almost 900 credit hours, when it only requires 230 credits to reach black belt. And amazing, like training 3-4 hours a day, 5 hours a day sometimes, intensively, right? So the mindset. And, she just came in with very little blocks because she came from such a traumatic childhood where then, she's just happy to be alive. So she didn't have all these things. And to be able to take someone like that with very minimal blocks to a high level very quickly was incredible. Then you have other high level competitors they'll come to me at black belt level. And now it's like one mental block that we need to overcome, and that might take 2 or 3 years. So there's a difference with everybody, but with kids, it's always the mindset. If they believe they can, it's like a rocket. You just give them that little spark, right? And then you ignite that fire, and they take off. But you have to create that circumstance.
And she was clearly pulled by something outside of herself.
Yeah, her mom. So her mom, Cindy, would say, I just had no idea, would never have thought to bring her to martial arts. They had a friend who had an incident in a Target, and her mom's like, okay, we need to do some martial arts. We need to do some self-defense training, but had no idea that she would want to compete and do all these things. I mean, basically, so the condition with her bones, 3-4 weeks after we started, she broke her foot in 4 places. But she had such a high pain tolerance that she didn't know. It wasn't during training, it was afterwards. She was just doing more training on her own. Her mom noticed that she was walking a little bit on the edge of her foot. And she's like, what happened? And she goes, nothing. I said, why are you walking like that? I don't know. Did your foot bother you? She's like, I don't know, maybe a little, but like it's okay. Like it's been like this. Well, it had been like this. We don't know how long. Got an x-ray, broken 4 places. She was in a walking boot, and her mom's like, she's in a walking boot. And she was like, no, but I don't want to stop. We literally trained for 2 months on her knees and did all of her weapons, all of her upper body training, but on her knees and on a chair. And then when she could put weight on her foot, then we continued. And then she went and competed in an international tournament competition at blue belt level. But she competed, and she won a first place in one forms category, a second, a third, and a fourth. But like her mindset was just, when I told her, when she said she wanted to do it, and I said, you can absolutely do it. She goes, okay, let's go. It was that simple because there was zero doubt in her mind, because that was just already her mindset, which was incredible. I had never actually worked with a student like that. It was the first time, let alone not a high level performer, but someone coming from very low level awareness of her body and ability because her total lack of physical activity throughout her whole childhood. She's 11 now. So basically 8.5 years old to 11, like that's all she had in terms of physical movement and ability.
What does she want to do with this? Tournaments or film and TV?
So she did compete, but her focus is she's an actor and a YouTuber, and so her focus is entertainment work. And she's super cute, amazingly talented, but just you would just never know. And like even her mom, it was like breakthrough after breakthrough, and we started with this 6-week period to just see what she could do. That turned into, okay, 2 months to prep to a tournament. Then they said, well, we should try and go for a black belt. That turned into another 2 months. And 6 months later, over 800, we calculate credit hours for, each belt rank level. It's based on a 2-month cycle normally. So what you would do in 3.5 years, she did in 6 months. But actually what you would do in 3.5 years, then you need to go to second degree, third degree, then it's another 2 years, another 3 years. The amount of credit class hours that are required, she did enough to qualify for third degree black belt. It's amazing.
And these are lessons these kids are going to take for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Well, what an incredible feeling it must be to shape the lives of kids like that and inspire them and see them achieve great things like this.
Yeah.
And you've got 2 boys, right?
Yes. Talon is 20, Gage is 11. And Talon never wanted to compete, didn't till he was 16. He didn't get his black belt till he was 16. So if you're a martial arts instructor, of course you want your kids to become black belts and have the skill. And I did, but I never wanted it to be my thing. It had to be their thing. So Gage didn't get his black belt until he was 9. So Talon just never wanted to do the martial arts very much. He gravitated more towards acrobatics. It was only, they went to a special school in Bali called the Green School. They came back and then together they decided, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to get our black belts together. And then they came to me and Talon said, okay, I talked to Gage and we decided we're going to do this. And talk about a memorable moment. Like for me as a martial arts instructor and mentor, program developer, for me that was like music to my ears. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a moment. And then they did. And they started training and they went through the belts. But if Gage was not an element or a factor, Talon would have never done it. He would have had the martial arts skill. He would have never dedicated himself to getting a black belt. It was only because of that dynamic with his brother. Then they competed at their first tournament at an inter-school tournament. It was just within our Victory Martial Arts company in Orlando, Florida, together. They did one more in Vegas, but that was it. 2 tournaments. They never wanted to compete in tournaments after that. They still don't. Talon really didn't have interest in doing anything entertainment. I trained Taylor Lautner, Jaden Smith for the Karate Kid, many kid actors, and they grew up with this. So they see what it involves, and it's a business, it's work, it's long hours, it's doing things when as a child you don't get to do other things because you have to sacrifice to then do the work. So they never wanted to do it until recently. So then Talon decided, okay, he did little things here and there, but never wanted to do it. We did a whole headshot session with him when he was younger, like 6th grade. He wanted to do it. He called the photographer that we knew. We said, oh, you want it? You call her. And then he set it up. And then once the photos were done, we never printed the photos. And we never printed the photos because I said, well, then you need to put them on the drive and then we'll take you to then go get them printed. But I won't do it. It's not my career. You want to do it? You do it. Then he never wanted to take the time to transfer them onto a drive. That was it. We had an agent manager that were interested. He would need to make the call. And we set it up. But for me as a parent, like I know what it's like to have kids where parents do everything for the child. And then the parent resists at times. There wasn't one moment as a child where I complained or that didn't want to train. I loved it. I did it. You couldn't get me to stop doing it. My parents would have to yell at me to stop, and go to bed. So I had this baseball coach who just couldn't believe that I would want to miss a game, and I was a star pitcher at the time, for a karate class. And he got really upset. And for me, I was just like, he goes, wait a second. You're telling me that this isn't a tournament, this is just a class, and you don't want to come to the game? And I was like, and he lost it. He lost it. And I always look back to that moment and realize, wow, like I was just so certain that this was much more important to me. And we went on to win like the city championship. It was amazing. But for me, it was all about karate tournaments. Yeah. And so, I wanted that for my boys. So I would never, ever, because you know how it is in Hollywood, I would never want a kid to say, but you made me do it, right? And it actually came up recently with my younger one, Gage. And I said, oh no. I said, you do this because you want to, and I will help support you. But you don't want to do it, we're done. Like, this is not for me, it's for you, right? Then, because it's a business. And I don't recommend this business for anybody because it's so difficult. Now, if there is a child who shows that in their nature, like they are just a performer, like we talk about prodigies all the time. It's like, how does a 2.5-year-old play piano like a pro? Like they must have been in another life already a professional piano player. Like they must have come into this world already with that skill. Otherwise, how is it that they can do that? Because you cannot train a 2.5-year-old, 3-year-old to do that. Or, right? It's like incredible. So then when there are, on a rare cases, individuals like that, then yes, performing, whether that's theater, whether that's just for fun, whether it is for TV and film, there are outlets for that, but there are dangers. And so I work very hard to educate parents, and I just would never recommend anything for someone else's child if it wasn't good enough for my child. So.
Very good.
Yeah.
So somebody, a child, adult, and this for parents also, if they want to get into action training for film and TV, what are your recommended steps? What should they do to start?
So to start for action training, then it would be a mix of everything. So if the kids are well versed in different sports, not a single sport, because if you look at soccer, that's very leg conditioning oriented, not a lot of upper body, right? So running, jumping, gymnastics, and martial arts for sure, right? Then free running, parkour. Other sports are great. The competitive nature is very important to have because it's necessary in this business. But then the actual physical skills, then martial arts, gymnastics, free running, parkour, those would be the main ones. All other sports are going to be valuable. So Taylor Lautner played all the sports, football, baseball, soccer, you name it, he did it. Just being athletic is helpful. The coordination is helpful. This way, when you go to learn how to do other types of maneuvers, whether it's upper body, lower body, or a combination of both, flying on a wire, having to hit a mini tramp, then you have such a strong level of awareness, then it makes it easier to transition. Dancers, I forgot dance, absolutely dance, because some of the top female fight choreography specialists and stunt doubles are former dancers that were able to transition, learn martial arts very easily because of the body position, the posture, to the extension, rhythm, timing, choreography. They already know how to do the 8 counts and stay in time with music. So those disciplines are very, very helpful.
At what point should they go into the acting part of it?
Like anything, the sooner the better. So it's no extra time, right? If I'm going to do a punch, right, and throw a punch or a punch, and if I want to perform it a little bit better, then I'm going to just tell somebody to breathe, like that. If I want it much stronger, then I might say, okay, now change your facial expression, look a little bit stronger. And then now let's increase the sound. So instead of like this, I want like that, right? Like that, and we go louder, stronger, harder. But then that's not what you do, it's how you better do it. And so it's also having to do with creating the circumstance. Okay, now if we're going to film this, or if you're going to play a character, we want it to look a certain way. Try and act like you're much stronger, or you're increasing the level of intensity. So that can be done at the same time as you're doing regular training. So it can be done without a lot more effort. You can do separate acting classes, but even just watching and copying YouTube videos, films, and TV shows, masterclass online is a great example of a platform that anyone in the world could get access to if you don't live in one of the major cities for acting, like LA, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, San Francisco. So there's great resources online. So and they're free.
Wow, you should
Free.
do a master class.
I would love to. I would love to.
Yeah,
I'll have
I
to
agree.
reach out to them.
That's a wonderful platform.
Yes, yes,
Got all the people at the top of their game doing that.
yes. So when to start? As soon as possible. If it's something that you want to do, just start, right? Just shoot your own videos. It's the best way. That's how filmmakers do it, right? Tell a story. Get an idea, think about it, set it up, film it, see what it looks like. And just
Yeah.
edit it on your phone.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm a big believer in virtual mentorship, and especially if you're limited economically. Like you said, you go to YouTube, there's tons of free videos out there and resources you can use that you can, copy and learn from, or you could watch your old videos and just get these virtual role models in your head and people that can teach you.
Absolutely.
What are you most excited about today?
I'm most excited about my transition. So I'm always trying to evolve and to learn more and to challenge myself. So these last 2 years have been like the greatest moments of my life. Everything that I've worked for, has come to fruition. Every stage that I'm looking to go to has been developing. Stars have been aligning, and I have this one film under my belt now where you can talk about doing a film and never do it. And that's most people. And so for me, I'm a doer. So I needed to do it. I needed to just make it happen. And I wanted to do it with a family-friendly concept that was not just something that as a parent you would say, oh yeah, you can watch that. I don't want parents to approve it. I want parents to go, oh yeah, I heard about this. No, let's wait. Want to watch it together. I want to create stuff for families that's good family-friendly programming. I grew up with Little House on the Prairie, which is kind of funny, but there aren't a lot of shows that are good-natured like that where parents actually want to sit down and watch it with their kids. And then on the other side, all the superhero action stuff or the really dramatic, dark stuff, which I'm going to be getting into now with another director, that is going to be an amazing challenge for me. So I'm working across different genres right now and different platforms. It's just the most exciting moment ever. I still am working with a few select private students, like the girl Peyton Hart that I mentioned earlier. She's amazing, and I love that. I will always teach no matter what. I hope to do it on a much larger scale where I can create some program, because we've done all that we can do with programming inside the martial arts industry. I would love to create programming that is free and available to anybody out there where they can learn in other countries that are underprivileged and create centers that are leadership based, like the Boys and Girl Clubs of America, but leadership based, and have the physical martial art component to it that can really help with the discipline and the mindset and the track that these youngsters can go through as they're growing up, where they don't have access to. Martial arts is very expensive. It is not a low income level sport. It is very expensive, and so making that available, because there's such a value to it that most people cannot afford. So. Yeah, there's too much. So my main focus is action directing and producing, because I know using that platform is going to allow me to reach more people, and I want to expose the benefits of martial arts in a creative way, tell stories, challenge myself, but then really reach as many people as possible. I know that's why I'm here, and that's where my gift is. It's just through the entertainment medium, it's just so powerful. So there's no better way to reach as many people faster than through entertainment.
Incredible. Your sense of contribution is wonderful. And I think that what you're doing with your students, with your schools, with your own career, in being a role model yourself is just exceptional.
Thank you.
So where do we find out more about you? Your training, your mentorship?
So right now, I would say much of what I'm doing now is quite private because I cannot talk about a lot of it. So I do have a class, XMA Action Stunts. You can go to the XMA Action Instagram, and we just started it, but that's part of the promotion. I don't have a website. Everything's been I've had to hold back on releasing stuff. Martial art programming, go to Xtreme Martial Arts, the Martial Art Industry Association, if you're looking for a school nearest you. You can go to the American Taekwondo Association, ATA online, schools all over the world. Victory Martial Arts, I was the one that created the leadership program with Chief Master Von Schmeling. We started it in Victory. It became then the ATA leadership program. And then we worked with them to then implement the training throughout all the schools, training the instructors for the last 3 years. So the programming is out there. I'm very proud of that because it's something where we can reach people and students through other instructors that are then creating impact on a local level. And that was always the goal, to start here in one spot, but then grow nationally, globally, but then really get into the roots locally in other areas through the instructors of the martial arts industry. I love that. Other than that, you can always direct message me on Instagram or on Facebook, Mike Chat XMA. Easy to find me, Google me, YouTube, whatever. I am really good about getting back to people within a week, not within a day. So I am busy, and I have other people manage my social media at times. So if you don't hear back, please continue. But I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. It's the main reason why I'm here on this planet. I'm enjoying everything right now, so it's pretty easy to find me.
Great way to wrap it up.
Yes.
Mike, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Big thanks to my special guest, Mike Chat. Be sure to connect with him on social at MikeChatXMA. Want to meet more incredible guests? Then don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And let me know what you think in the comments. Your feedback is always welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jay Menez, and I'll see you on the next episode of Hollywood Real.